Now, literally 2 days ago, I was offered some Sycamore, and this is what I got, 1.6 tons of it. Now, I thought this would be a very good opportunity to do a little bit of wet turning. Now, having been fortunate enough to attend a couple of Mark Sanger's very excellent demonstrations, I decided to attempt a hollow form. Now, I intend to start off with something about a foot square in the hope of producing a nice hollow form about 9 inches high by 9 inches in diameter. Now, when you're turning green wood, you have to be mindful that the sap is going to fly all over the place, and therefore it's necessary to protect some of your machinery, including the lathe bed, from going rusty. So I'm going to give all the exposed metal surfaces a good dousing in Liberon lubricating wax before I start. Now, although I intend to turn this piece in the opposite orientation, I'm going to start off by mounting it between centres longitudinally just to get it evened up and balanced. Now, to start off the hollowing process, I'm going to drill right to the base with a 40mm Forstner bit. Now, something I don't do often enough is to turn the head through 45 degrees. This is far more comfortable when hollowing rather than stretching over the lathe bed. So I'm going to start off the hollowing process using my Simon Hope 6mm mini hollower. Then I'm going to move on to my Crown Cryo MIDI hollowing system, which, to be honest, I've not had an awful lot of success with. And no matter how I set up the system, I seem to get a constant vibration and juddering all the time beyond a few centimetres into the piece. This outing seems to be no exception, and I'm soon giving up in favour of the Simon Hope easy arm hollowing system. After excavating as much as I dare using that greedy little 6mm cutter, I attach the laser guide system so that I get an even wall thickness right throughout the piece. The laser guide is a very, very good system and I like it very much, but I have seen the camera attachment in place, and to be honest it's far superior, and I'm beginning now to regret not buying it. Now with this particular tool, hollowing is very easy, it's very positive. As long as you have the cutter parallel to the lathe bed, there is no vibration, and it only in fact took me around 15 to 20 minutes to completely excavate this. So eventually I get the laser on the edge of the piece, which means there is a uniform wall thickness of about 3/8 of an inch. Now, despite most of the sap being strewn around the workshop, including the roof, this piece is still showing a moisture content of about 26%. So I decide to fill the cavity with rice and pop it in a box of shavings until the moisture content is reduced to a workable level. I'll need to remove the rice after about 24 hours and also agitate the shavings regularly to prevent mould setting in. Okay, pause for an update. The hollow form is about as hollow as I can get it. As I mentioned, it's about 1/4 of an inch thick, but it's still very wet, much wetter than I had anticipated. So as you can see, I've stored it in a cardboard box. I've half filled the piece with rice and put it into a box of damp shavings, which I'll keep moving about every day now for the next few weeks, monitoring the moisture content. In the meantime, we have the offcut from the log, if you go back to the beginning of the video. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to wet turn this into a very shallow thin dish, with a view to possibly, if I can, finishing it at the same time. Now, considering how soft and wet this piece of wood is at the moment, I'm going to infill the recess with some thin CA glue in a hope to stiffen it up and reduce the opportunity of the piece to go airborne. I'll be doing most of the excavation of this bowl with one of my most favourite tools, which is my 1/2-inch Sorby bowl gouge. And to finish off the inside, I'll be using another of my favourite tools, which is my Ashley Isles Big Fat Scraper. Now, despite my anti-airborne countermeasures, the CA glue, the piece did decide to go airborne regardless. This did rather end my ambition to keep some of the bark on the live edge. Having achieved a uniform thickness of about 3/8 of an inch, I decided to attempt to dry it using the microwave method. The method that I use that works for me personally are repeated cycles of 400 watts at 40 seconds with 2-minute intervals between the cycles. Okay, so it took 36 iterations in the microwave to bring the moisture content of this bowl down to about 11%, which is okay. Now, this very bland piece of sycamore is absolutely crying out for some colour. Now it seems to be fairly traditional when adding colour to put the colour on the outside of the bowl and leave the inside of the bowl the natural wood. However, in this case I'm tempted to colour all of it because it is in fact so bland. There's nothing interesting about the grain on the inside of the wood whatsoever. Now I want to sand back most of this black until there are basically some legacy stains. I started off this process with 400 grit paper, but moved back up to 240 as it wasn't removing it fast enough. So in the second stage of the colouring process then, I'm moving on to the flame intrinsic colour stain. Now by the time I've gone over it with the flame, I've decided that it's too dark, not what I want, and to sand it back and to use diluted colours. Okay, at this stage I cleaned the surface of the inside of the bowl using methylated spirits or denatured alcohol before going on to several coats of pre-thinned sanding sealer. Went on to complete the outside of the bowl in exactly the same way. And in fact I like the outside of the bowl much more than I do the inside. Now I saw on one of the Facebook woodturning groups quite recently somebody using blackboard paint on the natural edge of the bowl because the black stains were not black enough. Now I do like the result of this. It's a nice flat matte finish but very black. Now I can't remember who actually came up with this idea, so I can't give them credit for it, but if anybody does know, please let me know in the comments below. Okay then, so there we have it, the two pieces of wet turned sycamore. There was actually a standing tree just 3 days ago. Now the hollow form is still very damp and it's still showing 18% on the moisture meter, too big to go in the microwave. So I'm just going to have to leave it in the box of shavings until the moisture level drops to about 10 or 8%, and then I'll make a short video finishing it. Now the second piece, that was the offcut from the log, Turned an interesting end grain bowl. The finish on the outside is okay, but I can see when my mother sees this, she's going to say it's mouldy, and she's going to say that because in fact it does look mouldy. Anyway, it was a good experiment. I like the finish on the outside. I think it's quite interesting. I'll be doing a few more of these, I think. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed today's video, and don't forget to join me again next week.